Hey, what's happening? PowerStroke Jude here. Hope everyone's having a great night. Uh, don't mind the chin. I talked to you in a previous video. I kind of had some issues going on with it, and well, anyways, it's healing. So I sound a little bit better today. I think my mouth isn't as numb or as swollen as it was. So like that's a pro. But anyways, today's topic, man, I'm going to talk to you all about when to and when not to lift the cab on a Ford PowerStroke, and that'll just mean 6.0, primarily a 6.0, but on a PowerStroke because I've lifted cabs on all of them. In the mid 2000s, I didn't care if it was a 6.4, 6.0, or 7.3. I lifted cabs on pretty much anything that had if I had to do heads or an engine on, um, the cab came up, and I got really efficient at it. Don't be. It's not nothing to ever be intimidated by. Once you do it a few times, it's fast. It's easy. It's no big deal. But there are cons to it as well. There's obvious things too. If you're at a shop and you have equipment, like a lift and an AC machine, uh, you can lift the cab whenever you want. Um, if you're at like me, the last one I did in my driveway. You can't lift the cab. Now, what are you going to do? Um, some other reasons not to lift the cab is sometimes uh, these trucks have aftermarket warranty or extended warranties, and you got to get like a insurance adjuster to come out and look at it. And they'll be like, all right, well, they'll approve so much work, and they'll say, well, you know what, go ahead and pull the head, and then we'll send someone out to come look at it, and you'll get your approval. But you don't know if that's going to be a day, a week, or whatever. Same thing with even if it's not aftermarket, because sometimes if you're having problems with it, and you think you're trying to get something approved, and warranty doesn't want to approve it when you run your numbers, on the computer, and Ford's like, well, we're going to send the field service engineer out to check it out, and you don't know when they're going to show up either. So if you leave it, lift the cab, you're out of bay for who knows how long until they get there. And some people only have one bay. I mean, some people have four. Some people, but if you have four, I guess it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if you only have one or maybe two, it's probably not a good idea at that point. I've got my little cheat sheet here, guys. Um, a pro, if you have an apprentice or a helper, uh, I personally have lifted a cab. Got started, 7:45, 8 in the morning, and by 4:30, we had the cab up, stripped down, uh, head gaskets done, put back together, and the truck was running and idling. Excuse me. I just had to do my road test the next morning. Um, so that's an obvious pro that you can do it really quickly. Uh, Now I don't know if this is a con or a pro, but when you're doing it alone, you're not going obviously not going to do it as quick, but I wouldn't say it is quicker still, because personally, people will probably call BS on this, but I think everything being equal, you know parts, everything in place. I think I can do just as fast cab up as I can cab down. I've done tons of them. So uh, yeah, like I said, all things being equal, I think when you're by yourself, that's just a judgment call. Um, when you are by yourself, sometimes it might be better to lift the cab, because even though you can still do it by yourself, it's a lot easier when you have the cab down. When you're setting ahead, to have someone managing the cherry picker for you, the engine hoist. With the head, with the head bracket, as you're lowering the head, up a little, down a little, push it in, push it out, whatever. Uh, that's a lot easier with someone. So maybe a pro is if you're by yourself, you don't need anyone to help you. You can just lift the cab and do it. Even though I have done it by myself with the cab down, um, it's easier by yourself with the cab up. What else did I write down here? Um, equipment, if you don't have a AC machine, for example, um, you probably don't want to do it. I mean, you can do it cab down because you can just loosen the evaporator box and get it to the side so you can get those head bolts on the passenger side. But to me, that is the hardest way, the absolute hardest way to do a head job on a 6.0. Uh, I always evacuate the AC. Now when I'm doing stuff at home, I don't have an AC machine, but there's a couple of shops over here that I'll send work to sometimes. If I'm busy or if I'm not available, so they're cool with me. I'll go see them. I said, hey man, I gotta do a head job on this truck. I'm like, can you guys evacuate my AC? And I'll take it before I start. They'll evacuate the AC, and then I'll bring it home. I'll do the job. I'll take it back, and they'll recharge it for me. Usually, 50, $60. Sometimes they don't charge me anything. So that's cool. Uh, when you're at a shop and you have an AC machine, so I've heard people say, oh, it takes too long. It's too much work. It's not. It's so much easier to take out the evaporator box because if you're working at a shop, you hook up the AC machine, your lines, you start sucking out the refrigerant. You can move on and start taking the charger. That can be the very first thing you do. Connect the AC machine. Then you move on to the other side. Start taking off the air filter, the charger, cooler. Whatever you got to take off. In 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then once all the refrigerant sucked out, you go. You turn it off, and you can then at that point you can take out the evaporator box. The evap box comes out in 15, 20 minutes. 25 minutes if it's really fighting you. A piece of cake, man. It's really not hard to take out at all, and it goes in just as easy. It's about the same amount of time. And if you add that 20 minutes going in and coming out, people say, oh, that's an extra 40 minutes. But what's the big deal of 40 minutes when you're not fighting? I mean, anyone who's done head bolts on or had torque heads or get a head bolt out on a 6.0 knows how much of a pain in the butt that is with that box there. Other times, if it's got a bolt-on rack and I'm at a shop, I'll take off the rack and have a few guys help me take it down. If it's a welded on rack, you can't do nothing about it. You just gotta, come out to the front. And I'm just talking about heads, but there's engines too. Like if you're doing a bed plate on a 6.0, I've plenty of times lifted the cab to pull the motor out, and I've never really done that in a day, but I've done that in about a day and a few hours. That's a piece of cake too. If you're doing a bed plate with the cab up, with the cab down in a bed plate, if you don't pull the motor, a lot of guys like to do that, but on the earlier trucks, there's parts that they're not putting back in, and they say, "Oh, it's not necessary because they don't need them because on the newer models they don't have those bolts, so they don't need them on this one." I said, "Yeah, well, this isn't the newer model, and this one does have them. So if you're not going to put them in, you're kind of, I don't know, doing a bad repair, if you ask me." People might tell me I'm crazy, but I believe that. Oh, you know, if you have any reasons, pros on lifting a cab, add it in the comments, and I'll do a revision and I'll add it to this because I'm kind of just doing this freelancing it right now. I didn't put too much thought into this because in my head I said, you know what, did I work on PowerStrokes for the last 20 years? what do I need to research? But you start videotaping, your mind goes blank. I said videotaping, man, I just aged myself. You start recording and your mind goes blank. But and also give me cons, why not to lift the cab. I think I've given you a few good ones and a few bad ones. A few good reasons to lift the cab, a few good reasons not to. Ultimately, it's up to you what you're more comfortable with, what you think you're faster at. Like I said, I can do it either way, quickly, efficiently, And I know there's different things you got to do for the way you choose to go about it, but you know they're all in the back of my head or the back of my hand. I know what I'm doing. It's going to be relatively easy for me to make a decision and just go with it. um, Another good reason to lift the cab is to show someone who doesn't know how to lift the cab how to lift the cab. And that's also another good reason to not lift the cab, because you're teaching someone. It's a teaching experience, learning experience for someone. They want to learn how to lift the cab. So you show an apprentice how to lift the cab. Or they want to learn how to do it, cab down. So you show them how to do it, cab down. Learning experience is probably one of the best reasons, that's not related to money or getting paid. Teaching a young and up and coming tech, a way to do it, so then they could make their decision, and then they can make their own list and their own YouTube video on when to and when not to raise a cab. But yeah, absolutely, I think that's another good reason to for both. That's a pro for both. Learning experience. Um, Tool wise, you know, maybe a reason not to lift the cab like on a 6.4. It's because you don't want to fight with the cage bolts breaking, cage nuts breaking on the as you're trying to lift the cab. Because man, that can just really add time to your day, especially if you're alone. If you're doing it by yourself, that can just really add a whole lot of time to your job. Um, but I've done it. We all have. Most of us, anyways. Um, Anyways, man, if you guys can think of any reason to or not to lift the cab that I didn't list, put it in the comments. Tell me some of your experiences. Let me know how you think is faster. Is it faster to lift it or is it faster not to lift it? Are you more efficient when you're working in the shop? Obviously, with all the proper equipment. Yeah, I'm not going to question that, but I know I can do it in my driveway faster than some people can do it in the shop. I know that for a fact. Uh, Anyways, I'm going to cut this video short. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, follow me on Instagram. And if you go to Instagram, why don't you follow a group called Text Talking Shop? You can follow them on Instagram at text_talking_shop. It's a new project I'm working on with with 8 other content creators for YouTube. You got some good minds, some cool people. We all got some different views and different ways to do things and different ways we think about things, and we all come from different places. So we're gonna try to get something going. We're probably talking about possibly even doing a Text Talking Shop uh, YouTube page where we upload our content for that group just to that page, and then we upload our own content to our pages. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but we're thinking about it. Um, Anyways, like I said, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and until next time, PowerStroke Jude out.